The Puck Portfolio with Andy McNeil.
Hey, welcome to the Puck Portfolio. It's Thursday, April 10th, 10-game slate in the NHL today. I'm your host, Andy McNeil, and joining me as always, DFO's Nick Martin. Nick, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I woke up super early to get my work done before the Masters started. So after the show, pretty excited to watch a bunch of that.
Yeah, not much, not much for watching golf on TV. I like playing it, but yeah. So I can't relate to your excitement about the Masters, but I'm a little pissed off after how last night went for me. Nikita Kucherov, of course, had over 3.5 shots on goal. Did not get there. He had 20 shot attempts in the game and
Career high.
only 2 shots on goal. I don't remember the last time I've seen anything remotely close to that. And then, of course, the St. Louis Blues and the Edmonton Oilers, who I had to go the distance and end up in overtime or a shootout at plus 321. That one was 20 seconds, less than 20 seconds away from getting there. But of course, McDavid, who was not expected to play earlier in the day, ended up playing and then worked his magic late in the game with that pass to Connor Brown to end that in regulation with an Edmonton Oilers win. So, I was pretty tilted last night over my 2 bets.
Yeah, I agree. I feel you. And I don't even think it's nearly as bad of a beat, but Point missed for me. He had 2 shots and a post. So if that post counted, that would have gotten there. And then, I was big on the Blues. Even after McDavid played, I thought with Wallman sitting 5D, they had a good chance. I did think that was a trip with 30 seconds left as well. And if that gets called by the time it stops everything, we probably have a pretty good chance of winning both of our bets. So, that one was pretty tilting for sure. Good performance by the Oilers, considering who was out of the lineup and who they were playing, but not one that I enjoyed at all.
Yeah, absolutely. As a result of last night's scores, the Calgary Flames still alive here, just barely though. They are 5 points back of the St. Louis Blues. All the other Western Conference teams outside of the playoff picture have been eliminated. So, talk to me a little bit about Calgary, of course, losing to the Anaheim Ducks last night. Do you envision a scenario where they can get it done, or is this their season all but over?
I mean, it's pretty tough to envision it. They play Minnesota tomorrow, but Minnesota got Kaprizov and Ek back yesterday, as we touched on. They combined for 5 goals, so I don't know if I even love the Flames' chances in that matchup anymore. They're in pretty tough here. The Blues are probably the more likely team to catch. I could see Utah giving them a tough game, 82, but still winning 1 out of the remaining 2 games versus the Kraken, and Utah would pretty much make it a lock. So the races are almost over. And that was an absolutely shocking collapse by the Flames, for what it's worth. I couldn't believe it. Really, you get up 3-1 in that kind of a game, you give up 2 goals in 20 seconds or whatever it was. The only good thing, I pivoted once I saw Billy Husso was starting and went with Coronado to score. So unfortunately that happened before the show, but hopefully people who follow me on the Action app got that one in, because he did come through,
Nice.
which saved a semi-respectable night. But that was pretty stunning.
Yeah, pretty wild night in the NHL last night. Of course, just 5 games on the slate, but we had 3 games go to overtime. Of course, the Maple Leafs defeating the Tampa Bay Lightning 4-3 in overtime. A big score in New York as the Flyers took down the Rangers 8-5, which I was very happy about because I want them to stay ahead of the Boston Bruins in the standings. And then, of course, Marc-Andre Fleury in what was probably his last home start of his career, setting the new record for overtime wins by a goaltender with his 70th overtime victory, 8-7 over the San Jose Sharks.
That was really interesting, because I think any other night Fleury's getting pulled, and I was just thinking, if they don't win this game and miss the playoffs in the end because of it, that would be a pretty stunning story. But they eventually did find a way to get it done. And now they're pretty safe.
And then, like you said, the Flames blowing a 3-1 lead against the Anaheim Ducks, losing in overtime 4-3. And of course like I said, the Edmonton Oilers winning in regulation, just barely. I think there was 18 seconds left on the clock. 4-3 over the St. Louis Blues. Heading into Thursday, like I said, 10-game slate in the NHL today. Let's start with the Red Wings and the Panthers, because I have a play in this game that I like. The East playoff picture isn't as set as the West. There's still a handful of teams vying for that last wild card spot. The Montreal Canadiens do look to have it locked up, though. They currently have an 8-point lead over the Red Wings, the Islanders, the Blue Jackets, and the Rangers. So it would be pretty incredible to see them fall out of that now, playing the Ottawa Senators tonight. But the Red Wings, who are right there, still in it, haven't mathematically been eliminated yet. They'll host the Florida Panthers here on Thursday. They actually defeated the Panthers in just a few days on Sunday, actually, at home 2-1. But of course, that 4-1 loss to the Montreal Canadiens was a big blow to their chances here. They've got just 5 games remaining, and that's one more than Montreal. However, all 5 of their opponents are pretty tough. I mean, tonight you've got the Panthers. Tomorrow you've got the Lightning, the Dallas Stars, the New Jersey Devils, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. So it is very unlikely that Detroit will be able to pull this off. And I would suspect that a loss tonight is pretty likely. They are just 15, 18, and 4 on the road this season, going up against a Panthers team that is 25, 11, and 2. They've won both meetings versus Florida this year, but they've gone 3-7 in their last 10 meetings against the Panthers overall. I know, like we talked about it a while back on the show, and when Detroit was really kind of surging there in the middle of the winter, they hadn't really improved their underlying metrics under McClellan, and now you look back over his entire tenure here since taking over as Red Wings head coach, and they ranked 24th in expected goals and 22nd in shot attempts at 5-on-5. And they're just outside the bottom 10 in both goals and goals against per 60 minutes in all situation. And their power play has cooled off pretty considerably over the last month and a half or so. And like I said, this is the first half of back-to-back for the Red Wings, who are going to be taking on the Lightning on Friday. Haven't seen an update yet today, but I think Peter Mrazek is still listed as day-to-day, so that means it'll be Cam Talbot and Alex Lyons splitting these 2 games, most likely. The Panthers, meanwhile, they snapped a 5-game losing streak with that 3-1 win over the Maple Leafs, opening up a 4-game homestand here. They're 3 points behind the Lightning, 6 points back of the Maple Leafs in the Atlantic Division standings, while holding a 4-point edge over the Ottawa Senators right now. Of course, Alexander Barkov returned to the lineup on Tuesday after missing 3 games with an injury. He registered an assist in that one. They also got Gustav Forsling and Sam Reinhart back, who had both missed 1 game. But we did learn that Sam Bennett will miss the rest of the regular season with an upper body injury. He is expected to be ready for the playoffs, but in the meantime, a big loss for the Panthers, as he had a great season, reached 50 points for the first time in his career, 25 goals, 25 assists. So that's a big loss for the Panthers. But I think it opens things up here for the guy that I like tonight, and that's Anton Lundell to go over 2.5 shots on goal. Plus 131 out there, plus 125, even plus 115. You can shop around and find some pretty good looks on this one. Lundell, Luostarinen, and Marchand have really clicked over the last few games since being put together. According to Natural Stat Trick, they've controlled 69% of the shot attempts and 66% of the expected goals at 5-on-5 in just over 27 minutes of ice time. Lundell's actually tied for the team lead in shots with Carter Verhaeghe, who is going to miss tonight's game due to a maintenance day, according to the team. That's over the last 10 games, 32 shots, and he's registered at least 3 shots in 6 of his last 8 including 4 straight games with 4 shots or more. So I think that's a pretty attractive price here on a guy that's playing really well right now and shooting the puck a lot.
Yeah, I like it. I'm also playing a shot prop on the Panthers. I like Samoskevich again. He's been really good to me, and I think this is a good spot now with Verhaeghe coming back out. So kind of looking at it the same way. Samoskevich has averaged 20 shot attempts per 60 over the last 10 games. He's been pretty consistently firing. He's a player I'm really high on. So yeah, I think this is a good price for him versus the Wings. If anything, honestly, I'm kind of leaning towards the Wings. Like, I don't think it's a great spot to smash the Panthers. I feel like they were up for their game versus Toronto. But that's kind of been the only one recently. They've looked quite a bit worse and are really just seemingly kind of committed to getting their guys healthy and ratcheting it up when they get into the playoffs. So I don't know if it'll be a complete lock for them to win this game. I could see Detroit making it competitive.
I saw both Grand Theft Auto 5 and now Grand Theft Auto 6 will be released before the Sabres return to the playoffs, as they've been eliminated from playoff contention once again. They're in action against the Blue Jackets, who I guess still have a sliver of hope. You have a play in this game that you like?
Yeah, I do. And the Sabres have gone on a 5-game winning streak at the worst time here, and over
like they always do, man.
Yeah, they've really hurt themselves heading into the draft lottery. So good for the Bruins, but I mean, the Sabres, they keep playing like they are. They might catch the Rangers, which would just be. I mean, obviously these guys are proud players, but that definitely sucks. And I like the over in this game. It's definitely a chalky play, but I just think right now, the way the Blue Jackets are going, these are good bets. They've been pretty good to us. The Sabres have looked really good offensively this month. They've been getting pretty strong production out of Thompson, obviously, but the second line's also been quite strong. And I just feel like right now, it should be quite a high event matchup. Neither team's getting good goaltending. That's been a huge flaw for them all season. And neither team is overly strong defensively. So I feel like there's a pretty good chance this ends up being being a shootout. I think the Sabres are they're playing loose right now. They're playing well offensively. But I don't think it's been any kind of, get in there and grind out these games type of thing. They're just scoring tons of goals dating back to their 7-3 win over the Penguins here. So yeah, I feel like they will get their looks versus the Blue Jackets tonight and should keep it going offensively. But I'm still pretty high on what the Blue Jackets have offensively. They've been kind of hit or miss. Their overall numbers recently have been brought down by the amount of times they've been shut out, but those have come versus much better defensive teams than the Sabres. So yeah, I think this is a good spot to target a shootout. I also think both teams to score 3 is a decent bet.
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to say something, but I just totally forgot what I was going to say. So let's move on to the next game that we both have a play in here. We both like the Washington Capitals on the money line. Bit surprised by this line movement here, as the Caps have a big rest advantage. Of course, they're back after 3 days off following Ovechkin's record-setting performance against the Islanders on the weekend, facing a Hurricanes team that has only had 1 day off, so a 2-day rest advantage for the Capitals, which is pretty significant. Aside from Logan Thompson, Protas now out of the lineup as well, going to be out, looks like, till the end of the regular season. I'm not sure if he will be out longer than that, but that is definitely a loss for the Capitals. But why do you like this Caps team in this spot, aside from the rest advantage?
Yeah, I think it's a good spot to try to target the Caps kind of getting right here after this whole Ovi chase ending. And at plus 135, I just think it's gotten way too long. Lindgren's been the better goaltender for decently large sample. He hasn't been overly good either, but dating back to the start of the Four Nations, he does have a better save percentage than Thompson. So I don't really hate that too much. The Protas loss really sucks. He's been probably their second best two-way player, I'd say, this year. So that definitely hurts. But yeah, you look at this kind of price, and I think it's just gotten way too long. I want to buy on the upside of the Caps kind of getting right for the playoffs here. I thought it was really interesting. They asked all the players today at the morning skate to summarize what they thought of Ovechkin finally getting the record. Lars Eller said that his word was relief, which I do think is kind of a thing around the team. I feel like we've talked about the last few games of the chase, I think it became a huge distraction where they just wanted to get it over with. I think for a lot of the year it was, good motivation and part of the reason to bounce back offensively, but down the very stretch here, I feel like it became a bit of a story of just, they were out there trying to get this done with. So now that it is over with, I think they clearly want to get back to playing better hockey. This is a team, with somewhat of a chance of winning some playoff games. And yeah, obviously going to be a super competitive matchup tonight. They're both kind of playing for nothing. I mean, they both are playing for nothing. The Caps have won the division. The Hurricanes will finish second in the division. But I think in this tune-up spot, we'll see the Caps make it competitive. So yeah, I feel like the number's just a little too long here. I like the Hurricanes, that I'm pretty high on them. But I think this spot, we're going to see a competitive game. And I think the other thing to note too, the Hurricanes have really worked over the Caps pretty bad this year, but both games were in Carolina and the Caps were playing back-to-back. So I do think this is kind of their chance to give them a much better game.
Yeah, I agree. I think this price is way too long here on a Washington team that's done pretty well as underdogs this season, and I'm more than happy to take plus 135 on this team, regardless of the not regardless, but I mean, I guess regardless of the opponent, because the Hurricanes are right up there with the best of them in the NHL. There aren't too many situations where I wouldn't bet the Capitals at this price here. So yeah, the Rangers playing the second half of a back-to-back against the Islanders. So I guess one of those teams is going to be officially eliminated from playoff contention tonight. The Jets, they've got a one-day rest advantage over the Stars, who are playing their fourth game in 6 days. The Jets are returning from a 2-day break here. I think Nikolai Ehlers was on the ice today for practice, so that's probably a good thing. He was day-to-day with a foot injury. But of course, they are still without Gabriel Velarde, which hurts for sure. You like anything about this Jets Stars game at all? I looked at some shop props for the Winnipeg side, because we've talked about how bad Dallas has been defensively as of late, as far as allowing a very high number of shots. But they have so many of the players locked in, and I know you can shop around for these. But so many of the players locked in at over 2.5, where I'd rather probably bet over 3.5 in this game on some guys like maybe Mark Scheifele or Kyle Connor. And yeah, I did not see a play that I liked in this one.
Yeah, if anything, kind of I'm just leaning with the Jets. I think if Ehlers played, I'd be pretty tempted by them. We've talked about the how bad the Stars have been. It took a little bit, but they kind of got found out here. Obviously, they gave up 5 on Saturday versus the Penguins, lost the next night in Minnesota, and then had that historic collapse versus the Canucks. So I think they've been due to get, have some games like this. They were a bounce away from a huge blow up, I think, in all 4 games before this little streak here, or this little losing streak, I should say. So yeah, I think what Dallas has done recently has been pretty concerning. We've talked about it a lot, but that defense core looks awful without Heiskanen. I think it's kind of holding them back. So if anything, I feel like the Jets are playing a much sharper team game right now. If they had all their guys, I'd be really happy with this number. I think if they get just Ehlers back, plus 105 is not a bad look at all. But yeah, I didn't really have too much there.
Yeah, the Canucks scoring 3 goals in the final minute of the game and winning in overtime. Just incredible stuff. Never happened before in NHL history. And, I doubt if we'd ever see it happen again, because
I just wrote that in my Canucks article. I said, that record is standing for a really long time. I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that is, I thought my phone was like glitching out or something when I looked back at it. And I hadn't looked at the game since it was 5 minutes left, and I was completely stunned. So, yeah, I don't think that's ever happening again.
Big news out of Colorado as Captain Gabriel Landeskog has been sent down to the AHL for a conditioning stint with the Colorado Eagles. So it's definitely looking like reality that he's going to be back in the lineup, and maybe tonight will be their last home game without their captain here, hosting the Vancouver Canucks. Big favorites here, the Avalanche are, and you like them on the puck line.
Yeah, I think it's a good spot to try and buy on the Avs here. They've been playing really well, and I'm not necessarily counting on the air coming out of the Canucks here, as things are officially over for them. But I still think that the puck line's up to plus 125, so I think there's plenty of value there. You look at who's left in the Canucks lineup; their center depth is terrible. Pius Suter, top line center. After that, Max Sasson, Atu Rati, Teddy Bluger. So that's pretty tough. They've kind of hung in better than I would have expected recently. But I do feel like this is a really tough matchup versus the Avs. So I think it's a decent bet to try and, buy on Colorado, who've been one of the very best teams in the league since the trade deadline. I think they've, on paper, their roster now looks pretty incredible and they've been performing quite well. So I think it's a good spot to bet on the Avs. Maybe we see the Canucks kind of really fall flat here. It wouldn't surprise me. But either way, I feel like it's not a bad number to just target one of the best teams in the league right now versus a very shorthanded Canucks side. So yeah, I think that's a good bet. And then I do like, although the lines have just come down, so I don't know if there must be something going on with the Avs, but I like McKinnon to get 2 points at minus 115. He's right in the thick of that Art Ross chase. And we have heard players from various teams talk about these sorts of games previously. They all know where guys are at in terms of individual statistics like this. I think the Avs are obviously playing for more than that, but I do feel like they definitely want to get their guy, that Art Ross. And I think in this matchup versus a very shorthanded Canucks team, we should, there's a good chance McKinnon will have another huge night here. And the Canucks have been, I don't know if it's necessarily something that'll hold true or not, but they've actually been a pretty high event team recently. They've scored quite respectably during their little push for the playoffs here. They've averaged 3.5 goals per game over the last 10, but they've been giving up a lot of goals against. They're getting, fairly mid goaltending, and just defensively, I don't think they have the guys to shut down top teams right now. So yeah, all in all, I think it's a good spot to target a big night from McKinnon and the Avs.
Yeah, the line movement might have something to do with the fact that Martin Necas is looking like he's going to return to the lineup tonight, and that's the only thing I can think of that was announced just a little bit before we went live here.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, well, that's good then, especially the puck line's actually better than it was when I first looked at this. So, I think there's a lot to like about that play right now.
I've got one more play for the this evening. I mean, it's a tough time of year, right? I mean, you really start to see the fact that a lot of these teams don't have much to play for at this point, priced into to the lines, so that makes it tough to find sides. Things are kind of set here. There's always the possibility of some upsets even in these times, but it's pretty tough to find value in the money line at this time of year. I've always felt like that, and it's one of the reasons why I've always kind of winded things down in April and kind of maybe just stuck to the player props a little bit more. Not sure if Adrian Kempe is going to play here tonight. He left the last game. It says personal reasons. But he had played, I think, 13 minutes or something like that, but had to leave due to personal reasons, that might create some space for Kevin Fiala tonight, because he's the only other player on the team to score 30 plus goals this season. He's got 30 goals in 76 games. He actually leads the Kings in shots on goal over the last month or so, and has a pretty good price here tonight on Bet365, especially compared to other sports books. I know Pinnacle was down around the plus 140s, and he's listed at plus 170 to score an anytime goal at Bet365 against the Ducks team that, gives up a ton of shots, hasn't gotten great goaltending as of late like they were earlier this season. And like you've talked about a lot, they've been scrappy, but it's going to be a tough out here tonight versus the LA Kings at home. For the Anaheim Ducks, and I think that puts Fiala in a great spot to score a goal at, whether it's even strength or on the power play. He's got a great position to do that here tonight. So I like that plus 170 price tag on him to score an anytime goal.
Yeah, I like that. And I think another like similar angle you could go with, wanted to play it safe, you could try and wait and see on the Kempe news because it might shuffle the lines. But I do like going with Byfield and Fiala each to get a point at plus 155 if you can play it. I think that's another good look. They've both been unreal. We've kind of talked about this a lot, but Byfield is in incredible form. He scored that sick goal versus the Kraken in their last game. And overall, he's been close to a point per game, right with Fiala leading the team since the Four Nations face-off. So I think this is a good spot to buy in them as well. And I mean, depending on how it shakes out, it also could be an even better time if Byfield does end up on the top power play unit. Looking at their lines, he would probably be the most natural left shot to fill in for Kempe. So I think there's also a chance it ends up being even more correlated than usual. So I think that is another good way to target the same kind of idea.
Yeah, and he got that big boom bump from Big Justice not too long ago, so that's probably helped to motivate him.
I think I actually was kind of low on him, like when he first came into the league.
Big Justice?
Byfield, but I think he's really lovable, and he seems like a pretty chill guy. So yeah, I've kind of became a big fan of his.
He gets 5 big booms. Anyway, the Kings also have coming off a 2-day break here against the Ducks, who obviously played last night. So big rest advantage for them. Anything you're looking ahead to on Friday? I know you've had a lot to do today, but did you?
Yes, there was actually one play that I locked in. What was that? I think that the Lightning tomorrow puck line is a solid bet. They're at minus 110 to cover it versus Detroit. I really don't think. I thought they had a horrible luck last night on top of just Kucherov. They hit 4 posts in the first 10 minutes. I felt like the Leafs did a really good job blocking shots and hanging in, but the Lightning pretty much doubled their offensive zone time, had a ton of quality looks, and I think minus 110 is a pretty good number given that the Wings are playing tonight, could kind of fall flat if things don't go right tonight. And then the goaltending situation is also questionable, as like you said, Mrazek is day-to-day. So if he can't go tomorrow, they're either going to be going with Talbot back-to-back or third stringer. Who is even the third string right now? Because they got rid of right. Okay, yeah, fair enough. So I guess he's all right. But overall, I just think it looks a little short. It's one of these ones that we've kind of talked about a lot. I feel like these heavy favorites on overnight lines sometimes move the most, and I think this could be one of them. So yeah, I think that's a good bet. I'm not really worried about Tampa after last night's loss.
Yeah, Friday, we've got 5 games. Only one rest mismatch on Friday with the Red Wings playing the second half of a back-to-back in Tampa Bay. I misspoke earlier when I said the Canadiens and the Senators were going to meet tonight. It's actually tomorrow that they're going to meet. And both of those teams have had 2 days off, as have the Pittsburgh Penguins and the New Jersey Devils. But it's the start of a back-to-back for Montreal, as they're going to be playing Toronto on Saturday night on Hockey Night in Canada. Does not look like Ivan Demidov is going to be making his debut until Monday at the earliest, it sounds like. So that'll be must-watch TV on Monday. But big weekend for the Montreal Canadiens as they look to clinch a playoff spot. And I mean, I've always been adamant that I think, when it's all said and done, a few years from now, I think the Canadiens are going to be a better team than the Senators, the Sabres, or the Red Wings, the teams that they've been kind of lumped in with the last few years, right? And it must be just so frustrating for fans of those teams, especially the Red Wings and the Senators, to see the roller coaster that the Canadiens have been on over the last 5 years. Obviously, they went to the Stanley Cup final in that weird bubble year versus Tampa Bay, but they went to the bottom of the league, and now they're back in the playoffs already. It's got to be frustrating. Some of the fans of these other teams.
Yeah, like I kind of agree, and I think they've walked into it to some extent. The Hudson pick was great. It's insane he fell that far, and I thought it was really interesting. They showed the clip of the Habs room, and they were saying, whichever scout it was that was really pushing for him, all the fan base was like, wow, good for this guy, which I agree with. but also they still passed on him once. But yeah, I think you look at the hardest thing is getting those absolute top tier talents. And I think with Demidov and Hudson, they have them. So I agree that they're now, the most well situated out of all those teams. But they kind of like Demidov, if they passed on him at 5, it would have been absolutely insane. That was just very favorable that it broke that way, because I think a lot of people were in shock. It was the exact same thing we saw with Michkov, right? I feel like these teams get so hung up on things that probably aren't going to matter in the end. Like anyone you draft, there's not coming in and making a huge difference right away, really. So what's the difference if it takes them a little extra time?
Yeah.
I feel like it's not as much of a volatile situation as these teams kind of seem to think. And everyone was surprised both those guys fell, and now it already looks very, stupid that they both did. So
yeah, I think the most luck they have had is in goal with how Samuel Montembeault has worked out, because I don't think anybody saw him being as good as he has been in Montreal these last few years when they picked him up. So I mean, once again, good scouting, I guess.
Yeah. I think the other thing that I guess I'll touch on as we head into the weekend and the show's coming to an end, I do feel like every time you see an upset this time of year, you hear all the talk about, look out for this team, look out for that team. They're scrappy this kind of year or this time of year. But if you look over the last 15 games at the teams at the very bottom of the standings, it is exactly the teams that are the worst teams, and they're winning at pretty much exactly the same rate they did all season long. So I feel like that narrative is kind of just dumb.
Yeah.
Like right now, Sharks 3-9-2, Blackhawks 3-11-2, Bruins 4-10-1, Preds 5-10-1, Flyers 5-9-1. So it's pretty much just as it's been all year. So I feel like that is kind of a relevant note in the betting markets, as doesn't necessarily look like these teams are actually catching people off guard more often than not. Maybe that changes in the final games. I think obviously next week, a lot of our
especially with guys resting.
That's the thing. A lot of the thing, like our shows next week, will just be trying to catch good numbers on these teams that do end up resting several guys. But yeah, overall, doesn't look like that narrative is holding any truth.
Yeah, for sure. I looked into this years ago, and that was what I came up with as well. So I think you're right on the money there. But that does it for today's episode of the Puck Portfolio. We'll be back next week on Tuesday, right here on the DFO Fantasy and Betting YouTube channel, which for what will be our last show of the regular season. And we'll have some news for you on Tuesday regarding that. But until then, enjoy your weekend. Good luck with your bets and gamble responsibly.